What if I told you the American flag waved proudly over state-owned factories, and Soviet citizens stood in line at McDonald's? What if capitalism and communism had traded hosts, and history ran on reversed rails? This isn't just a what if, it's a total rewiring of the 20th century. Let's dive in. In this alternate timeline, imagine this. 1776, America's founding fathers, inspired not by liberal individualism, but by early utopian collectivist ideals, writing a constitution that emphasized state equality over personal freedom. Meanwhile, in Russia, the Romanov dynasty collapses in 1917, but instead of turning red, the Bolsheviks are crushed, and in the chaos, a Western-backed constitutional republic rises, ushering in capitalist reforms and open markets. The USA becomes a centralized, planned society. The USSR becomes the Wall Street of the East. But here's where things get strange. Fast forward to 1945. In our world, the US emerged as the capitalist hero. In this world, America helps liberate Europe into a tightly unified People's Allied bloc, a collection of Eastern-style planned economies. The Soviet Union, now capitalist, funds the rebuilding of Europe via the Moscow Plan, a free market rival to America's collectivist influence. And Berlin, it's still divided. But this time, it's West Berlin that's a walled-off socialist zone. Imagine Reagan, now Comrade Ronaldov, giving fiery speeches about the dangers of market greed. The Cold War doesn't vanish, it just flips. The American Central Information Ministry censors Hollywood. Soviet tech startups flourish in innovation zones outside Leningrad. And while the USSR builds skyscrapers of stock exchanges, the USA focuses on state unity, government housing, and 5-year cultural plans. Space race? Still on, but it's Cosmotron Inc., a private Russian firm that lands the first man on the moon. And NASA? It's now USSA, the American Socialist Space Agency, launching a modest capsule 5 years later. In Latin America and Asia, revolutionary wars play out differently. Vietnam isn't fighting against capitalism, it's resisting collectivist expansion from the American-backed North. Meanwhile, capitalist revolutions erupt in China, supported by the USSR. Hong Kong becomes a hub of communist American influence, not free trade. And Africa, it splits, some nations embracing Moscow's free markets, others aligning with Washington's planned policies. Global chessboard, same pieces, different players. In this twisted world, Coca-Cola is banned in America, replaced by People's Cola in red cans. Nike's biggest billboard stands tall in Kiev, not Times Square. The Beatles are promoted by the Soviet Free Press. Rap music becomes the voice of rebellion in Detroit's underground black markets. Censorship in the USA is rampant, but Soviet social media explodes with influencer billionaires flaunting luxury in Moscow's Silicon Ring. The 80s bring a crisis. While the USSR is booming with innovation and capitalist wealth, the USA faces mass protests, food shortages, and rebellion against the People's Governance Boards. Then, the Great Inversion Crisis of 1987. A global economic downturn sparked by American overplanning meets Russian deregulation bubbles. Both sides stare into the abyss. A nuclear standoff brews over oil trade rights in the Arctic. Humanity holds its breath. And then, peace talks begin. But here's the twist. Neither side won. They learned from each other. By the 2000s, a hybrid ideology takes over. The United Social Republic of America adopts semi-private tech innovation. The Soviet Federation of Free States introduces public health care and education. Two nations flipped, fought, and finally met halfway. What does this tell us? That history is fragile. Ideologies are tools, not destinies. And sometimes The world doesn't need a winner. It just needs the imagination to change course.